Watertown Police Department, the Public Information Officer as well. First off, I want to express our deepest condolences to Kendra's family, from all of us here at the Police Department. This last day has not been easy for anyone, especially the friends and family of Kendra. Last night, at about 6:15 p.m., officers responded to the 300 block of North Broadway Street for a welfare check. Upon arrival, officers discovered the deceased body of 28-year-old Kendra Owen inside her residence. Based on the injuries that were observed on Kendra, it was determined to be an apparent homicide. At this time, the exact cause of death is not known, and an autopsy is scheduled for today. The case is still currently being investigated by the Watertown Police Department along with the South Dakota Division of Criminal Investigation. These investigators worked through the night, gathering search warrants, processing the crime scene, and gathering evidence. At 6:15 a.m. this morning, probable cause was established, and Jeremiah Peacemaker was arrested for second-degree murder. Jeremiah was transported to the Cottington County Detention Center, where he is currently being held on a $1 million cash-only bond. At this time, Jeremiah and Kendra's relationship is found to be that of recent acquaintances. Based on the evidence that we found at the scene, it is believed that Kendra had been deceased for several days prior to officers responding and arriving at the scene there. We are currently working diligently to establish a timeline surrounding the events that led up to the incident. And we're asking anyone out there that has any information surrounding Jeremiah or Kendra over the last 10 days or anything suspicious that they may have seen in that area or may they've seen them, to contact the Watertown Police Department at 605-882-6210. You can also visit our website at www.watertownpd.com and submit a tip there as well. We greatly appreciate any information the public may have in helping us establish this timeline and get to the bottom of this incident. Thank you. At this time, if there's any questions from the media, I will be happy to take those. Yes, Jake?
Steve, where was Mr. Peacemaker apprehended anyway?
He was apprehended here in Watertown.
A specific address, or is that not available?
At this time, I'll turn over to one of the lead investigators, Detective Sergeant Chad Saul.
Good afternoon. We were able to locate Mr. Peacemaker at his residence here in Watertown.
Okay.
Is there another question?
Yeah, that was my question too, but just to follow up on that, what next in the investigation happens, Chad?
Well, anytime there's an investigation, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. At this time, we deemed there was probable cause and we felt that it was a safety issue, and that's why we made the arrest in order to get Mr. Peacemaker in jail or into custody. But anytime there's an investigation like this, it's very extensive. We have a lot of things that we need to follow up on as far as electronic evidence. Like Captain Rehorst said, we need to establish a timeline. Ms. Owen was deceased for several days, so we are looking for individuals that have been in contact with her, maybe saw her out and about. If they have seen her or anything like that, we would request a call to the number or email or website that Captain Rehorst provided.
Chad, are you able to talk at all about, in the investigation, what led you to the suspect? How you were able to connect him to the victim?
I guess it's being able to establish different occurrences that had happened in that part of town and just being able to tie individuals and developing leads and suspects, and that's where we were able to go, and that's where the investigation took us, was towards him.
Go ahead, Mike.
The initial call was a welfare check, as I understand it. Were there friends or family of her that hadn't heard from her that were maybe concerned about her well-being that caused you to go to this address initially?
Correct. I believe it was friends or acquaintances of her that had called in, were concerned about her, and they were not able to get in contact with her. So officers went to the residence, and that's when they found her deceased inside.
Can you give any details on how she died? Was there blood apparent, or?
Once we got into the residence and were able to get a good survey of the situation inside of there, she did sustain a substantial amount of trauma to the body, and that's what led us into the determination that it was a homicide.
Was the residence a single-family home or an apartment?
I believe it was probably initially built as a home, but it was developed into apartments.
Chad, what was the relationship they had, the two of them? You mentioned they had an acquaintance. I mean, was it long-term or was it just?
Recently met.
Recently.
Yes.
In the nature, not a boyfriend, girlfriend kind of thing?
No.
Is Mr. Peacemaker known to the police department here in town, or can you speak at all to what kind of criminal background he might have, if any?
He does have an extensive criminal history.
For what kind of offenses? Can you speak to that at all?
Numerous different sorts of offenses. I can't recall all of them right off the top of my head, but he does have several arrests that stem from South Dakota as well as other states.
Would it be violent felony level type offenses, do you know?
I can't recall any violent felonies right off the top of my head. There were several misdemeanor assaults and things of that nature.
Had he been jailed at all previously, Chad?
I do not know if he's been incarcerated here in Cottington County. He has spent time in prisons and in county jails.
Chad, Steve mentioned that you're still looking for help for the public. In regard to this case, what kind of information could be valuable that could help you with the investigation?
The most important thing is developing that timeline. Anytime there's a death, then it's been several days. We need to have that timeline so we can try and figure out exactly when it happened, and we can kind of tie everything back together then.
Do you know if he'd been working in town at all, Chad?
I do not believe he was employed at this time.
Were there any weapons found at the crime scene?
I was not inside the residence and part of the crime scene. I have not gone over everything that was collected. I do not know if there were any weapons that were recovered. Any other questions?
Good.
All right.
Thank you.
Very much.